I know something now. Qinya murmured in a low voice, holding her chin and sighing. These things are so obvious. I really don't know what's the need to explore. Emo Shanghua couldn't help raising her hand and nodding her forehead. She hated the iron and didn't make it into steel. No more knowing, no real evidence, how to convince people. Qinya covers his forehead and spits out his tongue playfully. It's just what I'm talking about. Flowers on the street smile. Just because of Lu Bohan and gloomy mood suddenly scattered most of the eyebrows' cold meltdown. It's difficult to thoroughly investigate the events 1 year ago. And it's not difficult to say it's not difficult. If someone has the ability, he may be able to probe things clearly in half a month. However, Yen Xinchuan, who is in charge of the investigation this time, is not only the first time to investigate the case, but also the first time to get involved in the affairs of the imperial court. He has no effective person, and on the other hand, he has to suppress many people who disagree with him in the Ministry of Punishment. It is quite difficult to investigate this matter. In addition, Yen Moli made some obstacles in secret, which made people worried and headache. Even if Yen Beiqing took over in person, he might not be able to restore the whole truth without exposing his own strength. At most, he found out the matter half-true and reported it to Emperor Baorong. But Yen Xinchuan was very persistent about it. He followed him to explore. He was very diligent and almost stayed in the Department of Punishment. Under this toss, just had the pickup body then gradually went downhill. Baorong Emperor also took time to meet Lu Zheng, and greatly appreciated his medical skills. He specially granted Lu Zheng the right to go in and out of the Imperial Palace Hospital at will. And the drugs in the Imperial Medicine Bureau can also be taken at will. In addition, it is necessary to report Yen Xinchuan's illness every 3 days. Now that he has known for less than half a month, Yen Xinchuan's body is not very good, so he personally dials several capable people he trusts to help Yen Xinchuan. Such a great honor and favor suddenly caused a sudden change in the direction of the wind in the court hall. Many neutral officials had already begun to join the army, and there was an endless stream of visitors to the 13 Princes' Palace outside the palace. But Yen Xinchuan didn't have the leisure to receive him. He stayed in the Ministry of Punishment day by day, and was full of thorough investigation. Even Lu Zheng couldn't persuade him. Emo Shanghua heard of Yen Xinchuan's busyness, but also a sigh. Yen Xinchuan's persistence to the original owner is really moving. I think the original owner under the spring will also be particularly gratified. Just sigh in the heart, did not think. Yen Xinchuan then ordered a message to come over, ask her to go to the Ministry of Punishment. Qinya looked at the messenger carefully. Seeing that she was familiar with him, she muttered, "Your Highness is so busy. How can you think of the princess again? Do you want to ask the princess to testify?" Emo Shanghua naturally also guessed the reason, with the humanitarian who came. "You wait a moment, I will go to the penalty department after changing clothes." The young man bowed his head respectfully and said, "Yes." It's said that changing clothes is just a matter of putting on the original plain clothes with a band around the sleeves, which makes it easier to walk and do things. When the princess goes out to change clothes, she always wants to put on her best clothes, but her master always dresses like this. Qin Yatin is full of melancholy. Emo Shanghua glanced at Qinya's speechless look and said, "Convenience is good. In the heart is to think, in North City this sea is the most stingy, if be known by him, certainly is a burst of jealousy. It's easy to dress up, but it's also convenient, so as not to upset the vinegar jar." As the chief judge, Yen Xinchuan had a special office in the Ministry of Punishment, but he never thought that when Emo Shanghua arrived he was not here. Instead he went to the prison. The flowers on the street had been waiting for a long time before he came late. These days of tossing, Yen Xinchuan had already ruddy a lot of cheeks, but also changed back to the perennial pathological pale. But to see the flowers on the street, his handsome face is always warm, and a bit sorry. "Sorry, I didn't expect you to come so soon. Let you wait for a long time." The apology on his face is very sincere, not fake. The flowers on the street naturally don't blame him. With a smile he said, "It's okay. Sit down please." Yen Xinchuan's face relaxed a little. Then he turned and said, "I'm going to change some new tea and snacks." Waiting for such a long time, The tea must be cold. And naturally it needs to be replaced. I'm afraid I can't give it out even if I'm really angry. Yen Xinchuan was gentle and polite, and the flowers on the street were not indifferent. He said in a soft voice, "Your Highness has been working hard for half a month, and his face looks worse." Yen Xinchuan just shook his head, a pair of warm eyes full of firmness. "Even if my life is consumed, I will definitely check this matter." Mo Shanghua looked at the persistence in his eyes clearly, kept silent for a moment and said, "Your Highness should know that the best result of this matter is just what he said in the mouth of the fake 1,000 gold. Not to mention that Empress Yen Malalin would try her best to cover up the truth of the matter. That is, when there is real evidence to prove that it is related to Yen Malalin, Emperor Baorong will not allow the truth to be disclosed. Because it's not Yen Moli's business, it's the face of the whole royal family." Yen Xinchuan's lips were slightly white. After a long time, he had no choice but to laugh bitterly at himself. "I know, but I just didn't want to. I didn't want her to die so miserably. I didn't want the people behind her to get away with the law. He is such a precious person, but only because of Yen Mo Li's selfishness, he killed her in vain. How can he be willing?" See his eyes bitter. Mo Shanghua can't bear to mention, quickly changed the topic. "Your Highness checked for half a month. Now I don't know how to check." Mention this matter. Yen Xinchuan defeated face just had a trace of facial expression. At the beginning of quite difficult, now Father Emperor sent 2 capable people to come, already had some eyebrows. "Can you tell me?" Mo's Hang Flower Factory eyebrows slightly pick, a little bit of interest. Yen Xinchuan nodded slightly, took out 2 pieces of folded paper from his sleeve, and handed it to Mo Shanghua. 10 years later, I sent him to find out where the husband and wife who raised the false Liu family were. They had never heard from each other, and the people involved in the case had disappeared. But a few of the servants who have witnessed this are still there, but they can't remember clearly, and they can't ask anything. Today the people sent by my father came and finally found the couple. If according to common sense, they had brought up the false Liu family, they should be very rich now, but when the Yamen officers found them, they were in a mess. The woman had a knife wound on her face, and our people arrested them. With a little bit of intimidation, the officials of the Ministry of Punishment summoned all they knew. It turned out that they were just ordinary servants and wives. They were just taking money. But after it was completed, he didn't get the money promised by those people. Instead, he was ordered to hunt people everywhere. If it had not been for half a year ago, they would have died. Yen Xinchuan explained the whole story in detail, for fear that the flowers on the street would be difficult to understand. When speaking, always warm face is stained with a bit of anger. Once you succeed, you will kill people. The person behind this is really vicious. Mo Shanghua was distracted to listen to Yen Xinchuan's description. She looked down at the 2 confession books and her eyes were cold. "It's really deliberate." Rao was a gentle Yen Xinchuan. The more he thought about it, the more indignant he was. If it had not been for the false Lius being killed early, things would not have been so difficult to deal with. Mo Shangflower Mao Guang Shan Shan, silent for a moment Wei. "False Liu sure as I kill." Yen Xinchuan turned his head and looked at the flowers in the street in shock. After a long silence he said, "Why do you want to do this?" Mo Shanghua has no shame, tone indifferent mouth. "Revenge for her, also a relief of Matsushi Liu." After a pause she added, "It's just that I didn't expect it to be so fast." She wanted to kill the fake Liu, but she didn't intend to kill her immediately. In the end Liu chose herself. Maybe, she just didn't want to die in the hands of Yen Moli. Yen Xinchuan smells speech, eyes complex looking at Mo Shanghua. For a long time, he forced his eyes away from the cheek of the flower in the street and laughed at himself. "I didn't avenge her myself. Just now, I was still complaining about you. It's ridiculous." In this case, Mo Shanghua really did not know how to go on, and was silent for a while. She stood on the body of the original owner, and how qualified to say more? Only can hook Yen Xinchuan's sad matter. Fortunately, Yen Xinchuan didn't know how to be narrow-minded. He soon released himself and continued to put himself into the case. "I've come to see you. In fact, I want to ask you something. False Liu's identity has not yet been confirmed, and we still don't know where her logo belongs. Mo Shanghua shook his head helplessly. Sorry, I can't give you much help in this matter. But I have a word to tell you. Yen Xinchuan's slightly depressed eyes toward her to see over. Mo Shanghua sat up straight, and her eyes seemed to be shining with light. She said faintly, everything needs to be done step by step. I'm too eager. I'm afraid it will backfire. However, if so, you are doomed to be unable to get out of this fight. Your Highness, once you step into this matter, all the intrigues and blood storms you don't want to see will have to be presented to you. Some words let Yen Xinchuan completely into silence. He lowered his eyes, his thick long eyelashes covered the look inside his eyes, and his facial features were tight. Mo Shanghua sees this, also is not in the speech, quietly sits aside, leaves the time Yen Xinchuan. For a long time, Yen Xinchuan raised his eyes again. There was a persistent color in his clear and warm eyes. I didn't want to be in that position, but if I had to be in that position to avenge her, I would do anything. After a pause he said, I also know how to do this matter. Don't worry, I have a sense of propriety. Say the eye Mao but dropped down again. The two hands of bone not distinct tightly close into fist. The green tendon on the back of the hand suddenly rises. Mo Shanghua stood up, took a light radiance on her lips, and said in a soft voice, Your Highness has already thought about it clearly, and it must be useless. I will go back to my house first. If there is something, Your Highness is in the line and send someone to inform me. Wait a minute. Yen Xinchuan, who had fallen down, suddenly stood up. The flower steps on the road slightly pause, turn round. Your Highness still have what matter? As if determined in his eyes, Yen Xinchuan came forward with a serious face and said, In the future, I'd like to stand on the side of Brother Five. The quiet face of the flower on the street cracked when it was Rongduan, revealing a look of surprise. Your Highness, why do you want to do this? Your Majesty loves you so much that if you want to, you may have more opportunities than anyone else. Yen Xinchuan spilled a bitter smile from the corner of his lips, and his eyes looked complex and hard to say. But if so, I will be your enemy. Huang saw, although my heart is dead, I don't know what that position represents. I don't want to disappoint her or completely change my appearance for this. I also ask Huang Sa to complete it. Mo Shanghua now has an understanding of love. Rao is so. She can't help feeling moved inside. Such deep feeling can have several. Well, since you want to, I'll go back and talk to your Highness. Mo Shanghua was moved. Even if she agreed. In the future, if you have any needs, just come to the palace to let me know. However, we'd better keep everything as usual, otherwise we'll be alarmed. Yen Xinchuan is also a very intelligent person. Naturally, he also knows the key to it, so he nodded at the moment. Okay. Mo Shanghua's heart sank into his belly and gave him a friendly smile. This smile, the original cold face such as the spring breeze Sulai General, full of warmth, the whole cheek is bright and vivid. It's like the original owner. Yen Xinchuan looked at it quietly. For a moment he lost his mind. A pain in his heart came back, full of pain. Mo Shanghua immediately saw Yen Xinchuan's mistake, hastily received a smile, slightly nodded to be considered polite, then hurriedly turned and left. She really doesn't want to be treated as a bystander, and she doesn't want to be bothered by Yen Xinchuan because of herself. It is undoubtedly a great surprise that Yen Xinchuan took the initiative to ask for a front with Yen Beicheng. Mo Shanghua went to Yanbei City to wait for him after he came back. When he came back with a tired face, he told him about it. I didn't see the joy in my imagination, but Yen Beicheng's cheek was black. Mo Shanghua was dull for a moment, and then he wanted to understand the reason. He suddenly laughed. Why do you like to be jealous so much? Well, it looks interesting. With that, he raised his green fingers and stroked his face with scarlet birthmark, without any aversion. Yen Beicheng took her hand with a black face and gritted his teeth. Next time you are not allowed to see any man alone. It is also not allowed to discuss business. The more I saw the flowers on the street, the more interesting I felt. Suddenly, I remembered what the woman in the house said a few days ago and said, "What do you want? Can I still tie you to my belt and carry you day by day?" Instead of being angry, Yen Beicheng leaned on her and forced her to his arms. If I can, I'll enjoy it. Asshole. Emo Shanghua smiles and hammers at Yan Beiqing's chest. He raises his eyes and looks at him. What's the trend on the court recently? After some teasing and intimacy, Yan Beiqing lost most of his anger and said casually, "It's all ordinary things. It's not worth mentioning. It's the queen. She's very restless these days." On the street, Flower Thin Eyebrow is to pick. Poor is quite interested to this matter. How uneasy. Yan Beiqing's tone was still casual, and he didn't seem to care about it. What else can there be? It's just that he frequently summons some women into the palace in an attempt to win people's hearts. However, her right to assist the 6 palaces has not been restored, and Yan Moli has been frustrated again and again. Few people really buy her. Emo Shanghua got up from Yan Beiqing's arms and said solemnly, "I'm afraid it's not as simple as you think. If it's not as I expected, in a few days, the queen will invite all the women in the palace to a banquet." So it was Yan Beiqing's turn to be surprised. So what? Emo Shanghua changed her face and kneaded her temple. She was a bit distressed. "I'm afraid I can't live a clean life." Yan Beiqing grinned. Emo Shanghua brow ring up, a face suspicious look to him. "What do you mean?" Yan Beiqing was smiling. Seeing that she didn't feel guilty at all, he said, "It's better to be called into the palace every day than to see some men outside the palace." Emo Shanghua. "How can there be such a careful man as you?" She burst into tears and laughter. Yan Beiqing is still upright, stretched his handsome face to the front of Emo Shanghua. "You guessed well, my heart is only as big as the tip of a needle," said, also extremely stinky light hum. Emo Shanghua smiles and pinches him around his waist, deliberately teasing him. "I want to be like this. What can you do?" Yanbei City was twisted. I also don't feel pain. Phoenix eyes suddenly a blink don't blink of stare at her. At the moment of Emo Shanghua's doubts, the scene suddenly turns. In a reaction, the whole person has been thrown on the bed by Yan Beicheng. His hot body is close to himself, half handsome and half ferocious cheek is near, and the thin lip is not well intentioned. The flower's eyes on the street flickered slightly. It seemed that there was something quickly passing by. The ruddy and full lips gently opened. Yan Beicheng you. Before the end of a word, all the words were blocked in the mouth. What Emo Shanghua expected was good. The next day, the queen summoned her into the palace with her. The women who entered the palace together were all those who had a noble life, and many maidens were among them. Naturally, some of the concubines in the palace were also invited together. If not, it would be like putting the goal on the surface. It's beautiful. The autumn chrysanthemum is blooming in the palace. Empress Lin is a virtuous woman. She can't bear to have only her concubines in the palace to enjoy it alone, so she invited everyone to come with her. Those who come here are all women who have noble life. Those who have noble life and their husband's status are also precious. Who can't have seen the best chrysanthemum? The purpose of the Empress is really just to publicize it. Third Prince's biological mother Chen Fei couldn't help but whisper to Li Fei. Princess Li, the mother of the fifth prince, naturally sneered, but her eyes were slightly unwilling. Now the 13th prince is winning the lottery, so she can't sit still. Sister Xu Fei, you can still raise children. Although you have been ill for so many years, once you come to the fore, you will win the lottery alone. Xu Fei, sitting beside them, just smiles at them. Her voice is soft and gentle. The two elder sisters praise each other falsely. Your Majesty just shows pity for Xian'er's weakness. Emo Shanghua was the princess of Yu, and Yan Bei, the king of Yu, was the fifth. In addition, Lin Xiangyin was still forbidden to come, so she naturally sat in the first place opposite the concubines. The rest of the princes and concubines have not yet passed the gate, so they have not been seated. Therefore, those who sit next to the flowers on the street are the maids. Empress Lin has not come yet, and each speaks freely. Emo Shanghua always has excellent ear power, so the words of the opposite concubines fall into Emo Shanghua's ears. Empress Lin appears virtuous and magnanimous, and her mother is in the world. However, she is notorious in the harem, and her concubines are full of complaints. Just a moment later, the eunuch's shrill voice came to my ear. Here comes the queen. The noise of words suddenly stopped, and everyone stood up to salute. See Empress, Empress Wanfu. No gift. Empress Lin's gentle and generous voice came from afar. You don't have to be formal today. You can watch it by yourself at the moment, and then you can have dinner in the evening. To enjoy chrysanthemums in the palace, there will be a banquet. I think it's dark after all today. Emo spent some time quietly in the heart, the bottom of the eyes across a bit impatient. It's a real headache to waste time in such an occasion. Princess you. Just thinking about it. A gentle female voice suddenly rang up. The flower on the street came back to see the lady in the simple and elegant palace dress come slowly and bow to salute. Lady. No need to be polite. Shufei personally raised her up and looked at her with soft eyes. The green chrysanthemum over there is very novel. Do you want to watch it with our palace? The gentle and elegant appearance of Lady Shufei is that she is over 30 years old and is still well maintained. She is not old at all and has a full charm. Look at the flowers on the street. The expression is also full of sincerity. Yes. Others sincerely treat themselves. The flowers on the street naturally will not be affected, should smile. Shufei's eyes became softer and softer. She deliberately slowed down and walked side by side with Emo Shanghua. I've heard about it a few days ago. That Lu family is really hateful. Fortunately, she's already in trouble now. You have been wronged and will soon be cleared. You have saved Xiener's life. Both the palace and Xiener are grateful for it. He will do his best. You can rest assured. Said she can't help but stop, a hand on the hand of Emo Shanghua. Your great kindness, this palace and Xiener will never forget. Since coming to this era, Emo Shanghua has been faced with dark and cunning people, and such kindness is rare. Now in the face of such sincere kindness she was stunned. After a while, she pursed her lips and pulled out a kind smile. Lady Shufei, it's too serious for you to say that. Shufei shook her head, and the seriousness on her face almost coincided with Yan Xinchuan's. Then she raised her hand to take off an emerald hosta from the hair room, and put it in the hair room of the flowers on the street. This hairpin was taken by me when I was married, and it was made by my father himself. Today I will give it to you as a token. If what I do in the future is contrary to what I say today, this hairpin can also help you get what you want. It is bitter on the flowers. Back to their own position, she is alone. Sitting beside her was a family member of an important official in the imperial court. Zenjiapin's Gaoming was over 40 years old, and naturally had nothing to say with her. Qinya slightly leaned over the flower and whispered, Princess, if you are bored, you might as well go out for a breath. Emo Shanghua was holding a piece of cake and eating it in a leisurely way, saying, The snacks in the palace are very delicious, and I'm not sitting down. Qinya stood up straight and said nothing more. Empress Lin sat on the top of the phoenix chair and looked at the concubine with a smile. Concubine, I heard that old 13 has been sick recently? You should let him take good care of his body. Don't just be busy with business. If you worry too much, it will affect your body. Shufei lowered her eyes and listened. The smile on her lips was as usual. Thank you for your concern. However, when he first entered the court, he attached great importance to what His Majesty had told him, so he was hardworking. His concubines couldn't persuade him, and they were very distressed to see him on weekdays. Empress Lin's eyes were cold, and her smile was still warm. This child is too serious. No wonder your Majesty likes it. Shufei was a little vigilant in her heart, and her face was still respectful. The Empress praised me falsely. Emo Shanghua is still chewing a snack. When he hears the conversation, he thinks about it in his heart. I'm afraid Empress Lin has been dazzled by jealousy. However, it is not too confused. At least not yet. As soon as the exclamation in the flower's heart fell, she saw that Princess Chun, who was sitting in a good position, suddenly got up and said that she wanted to propose a toast to Princess Shu. But somehow, she was shaken and scattered. Shufei's clothes were immediately stained with wine stains and wet. Sister Shufei, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Chun Fei immediately apologizes, but the bottom of her eyes is clearly across a touch of jealousy. Shufei see clearly, but only do not know, pull out a smile. It doesn't matter, I go to change a body. Chun Fei's face was full of guilt. No, since it's my fault, I should accompany my sister. I hope my sister won't give up. In that case, Inger, take the two ladies to the side hall to change clothes. Xu Fei hasn't opened her mouth yet, but Empress Lin, who is sitting in a high position, suddenly opens her mouth and directly confirms the matter. Xu Fei couldn't, so she had to thank her with Chen Fei and go together. Mo Shanghua put down half of the cake in his hand, frowned slightly, and felt that something was wrong. Just about to get up and quietly follow to the side hall to have a look, Empress Lin's eyes looked at her again. Princess Yu, I heard that Lu Xiang went to your house in person a while ago. Mo Shanghua got up and sat down again. She said, if you go back to the Empress, it's true. After hearing this, Empress Lin continued to say, although the result of the matter has not been found out, your identity is now confirmed. Now that Lu Xiang has come to the door, you may as well put down your position and recognize your ancestors as soon as possible. You can't be fooling around anymore. A pair of quiet eyes of flowers on the street suddenly died a little cold, with a kind face and a smile. Thank you for your trouble. She didn't want to say anything more. Empress Lin, however, seemed unable to hear the coldness in the air of the flower language, and continued. What happened in those years was just a misunderstanding. If you refuse to accept your ancestors, it would be very unfilial. Moreover, if you recognize your ancestors, you can have a family to rely on in the future. In this case, the flowers on the street, no less than adding fuel to the fire. Empress Lin's lips were slightly raised, and the bottom of her eyes quickly crossed something. But on her face, she was full of sincere words, a virtuous and loving elder. Mo Shanghua quickly glanced at Empress Lin's face. She was even colder in her heart. The Empress is really cunning. She has almost won the challenge. Thinking of this, Mo Shanghua readjusted her face and said with a faint smile, Empress Lao is concerned, and her children will reflect seriously. So calm. Empress Lin's reaction to Mo Shanghua is really unexpected. She can't help looking up at her in her heart. A little thought in the heart, just want to say a few more words. Eyes also sweep, then see the lady Chen Fei who went to dress has gone back with her. Xu Fei was originally wearing a plain robe, but now she is wearing a light blue dress. The dress is very plain, and there are not many embroidered flowers. Only the cuff is embroidered with a pattern, which is more plain than what she started to wear. Empress Lin's eyes lingered on Xu Fei's clothes for a moment, and her eyes were filled with a smile. If Xu Fei is really born beautiful, she is such a plain dress, which looks very good on her. Seeing this, concubine Chen, who was next to concubine Xu, began to smile and said, it's not true. Even my concubines are envious. No wonder your majesty likes it so much. Among all the concubines who have already given birth to the prince, concubine Xu is the youngest and most favored by Emperor Baorong. Concubine Chen's heart is naturally uneven. She says so on her face, but her eyes are sour. Xu Fei chuckled and said in a low voice, concubines are just like Pulu. How can they get such praise from the Empress? I'm really ashamed. Mo Shanghua stared at Xu Fei's clothes without saying a word, and her eyebrows frowned slightly. I don't know why, there is always some uneasiness in her heart, and she always feels that there seems to be something wrong with it. Thinking about it, Empress Lin said with a smile, our palace has ordered the imperial dining room to be ready. Then we can have dinner. Please take your seats. Xu Fei Chen saluted and stepped into her own position. Xu Fei's dress is a little long, and it's easy to step on when she sits down. Seeing this, the little maid-in-waiting came forward to help her arrange her dress and help her sit down. This toss down will be back exposed in front of everyone. Originally thought that Xu Fei's clothes were too plain. Now when I turned around, I saw that there were a bunch of flowers embroidered with silver thread and gold thread on the back of her clothes. In this way, it was not too plain. Wait, that flower. Peony. The flower on the street stares at the embroidery behind the lady for a long time, and her face suddenly changes. Chen Fei's actions are really not well-intentioned. The idea in the heart just comes out. Then see the Empress Lin on the high position also seemed to see that embroider kind. The smile on the face pale a few minutes. This dress is who take to Xu Fei? Female officering son immediately comes forward, gather eyebrow low I weigh. Reply Empress Empress, maidservant takes 2 empresses to the side hall. Then is ordered to go out to wait on. Empress Lin's eyes looked at Shufei, who was already in. Her eyes were a little sharp. Shufei, I thought it was the palace people who took it wrong. I didn't expect that you were so thoughtful. At the moment, the lady was seated. After listening to the queen's words, she could not help scratching her pretty face. She scratched her sleeve uneasily and said, I'm stupid. I don't know what advice the queen has. Lin Huang's back color completely sank down and said in a cold voice, Lady, you are still in the same palace dress here when you wear the palace dress in private. What? Shufei only felt the brain buzz. The whole person was confused on the spot. At the moment, Chen Fei frowned and looked at Shufei angrily. Sister Shufei, my palace said, this dress looks familiar. It looks like the queen's dress. Let someone go back to your bedroom and take another dress. You have to do this. I didn't expect that you were thinking about it. Then she quickly knelt down with her skirt. Empress, it's all my concubine's failure to persuade her sister. If you want to blame me, I'll blame you all. As soon as the voice fell, Princess Li's voice also rang. Empress, Lady Shu wears Empress's clothes privately. It's against the rules of the palace. You should deal with it impartially. Inside and outside, it means to punish the lady severely. Even Mo Shanghua suspected that before the banquet. She sat there criticizing that the 2 concubines of the queen were not imperial concubines Chen and Li. The harem is really a place where people eat without spitting. Mo Shanghua turned to see the different looks of the women, and fully understood in her heart. Queen Lin is not only here to win people's hearts. Yin Sichuan is in good health and works in the imperial court. Emperor Baorong loves her and dotes on her. Of course, her popularity is unmatched. On the other hand, Empress Lin lost her right to associate the 6th palace. However, she was not surrounded by such a good opportunity a few days ago. After that, Emperor Baorong did not recover her right to associate the 6th palace. Today she is going to hit Shufei's face in public, let everyone see. Even if she is temporarily down, she is still the supreme queen. Although the 2 of them shared the power of her assistant 6 palaces with Shufei, it was only in the Ming dynasty. In fact, Chen Fei did not dare to compete with her, and even acted for her. But in a short time, Mo Shanghua had thoroughly analyzed the queen's purpose and the situation in the palace. Shufei was not a dull person, but she was at a loss for a moment, and soon wanted to know the key. After a fierce ideological struggle in her heart, she finally got up and quickly went to the center of the hall, knelt down and pleaded guilty under the gaze of a group of wives and concubines. Concubines and concubines knew the crime, and they mistakenly wore the queen's maid to serve them, and voluntarily punished them. Behind the queen is the whole Lin family, and the lady's family is much weaker than before, and the identity of the queen is firmly pressing on her. This is the most appropriate way for her to do it. She didn't want to implicate Yin Sichuan because of herself. Queen. Seeing that Shufei should have confessed her guilt, Mo Shanghua suddenly stood up and said, I'm afraid it can't be concluded so easily. Empress Lin thought for a long time that the punishment method had already reached her throat. Before she took off, she saw the flower on the street suddenly making a sound, and her heart suddenly stopped. Damned Mo Shanghua just stopped her, and now she has to get involved. Thinking of this, the Emperor Lin sank behind him and said, Are you suspecting the injustice of our palace? The momentum of being in a high position all the year round also falls on the flower of the street with this sentence. If ordinary people, I'm afraid they've already knelt down and pleaded with each other. But Mo Shanghua has never been an ordinary person. The Empress's imposing manner did not make her fear. Her slender back was straight, and she retorted faintly. After returning to her mother, my son didn't mean that. My son's minister just thought that when she had been in the palace for many years, she didn't know that it was the queen's dress, and she should know that the peony on it couldn't be worn at will. What's more, there are so many people at today's banquet. Once they are recognized, they will be speechless. How can the lady dare to do such a wicked thing? Seeing that the flowers on the street were eloquent, Empress Lin's eyes crossed with a touch of anger, and her eyes swept to Imperial Concubine Qin. Imperial Concubine Qin, come to you, what was the scene in the palace at that time? Imperial Concubine Qin's eyes twinkled with Empress Lin's eyes for a moment, but her face was respectful. Tell the Empress that there were only concubines and concubines in the hall at that time. In order to prevent accidents, concubines had already prepared clothes in the side hall. She wanted to let concubines wear concubines, but she didn't want to. She took a fancy to the clothes in the hall. My concubine recognized that it was the old dress of the Empress, and tried every means to dissuade her. But the younger sister of the lady was determined to say that it was what the Empress was wearing. She would not tell if she was loved by Her Majesty. Empress, if my concubines don't dissuade me properly, I'll ask her to deal with it together. Empress Lin's face had sunk completely. When she looked at Concubine Qin, her tone was gentle again. You have already spoken to dissuade me. How can I blame you? Xu Fei suddenly raised her head, and a touch of anger passed on her pretty face. Before she could speak, she heard the flower on the street and said, Lady Xu Fei, is this really the case? Xu Fei opened her mouth, folded her hands tightly in front of her body, and her fingertips turned white with force. In the end, she just bit her lip and said nothing. This is a trap set by Princess Chun and the Queen. She doesn't have the ability to embarrass the Queen in public. Mo Xianghua felt that she hated iron but did not make it into steel. She raised her voice slightly and said, Lady Xu Fei, things can't be decided only by the one-sided words of Lady Qin. You should also say 2 sentences. If you are wronged, your father will make the decision for you. Said, a pair of quiet eyes toward Xu Fei straight looked over, as if there is some strange magic in general. Let Xu Fei's heart inexplicably settled down. Lady Xu Fei, believe me. The flower on the street sees shape, busy depressed voice, light voice way. Her words made the lady calm down and clench her teeth. A touch of firmness flashed in her eyes. She knelt straight and said, Empress, what I just said is not true. I didn't wear it by mistake. Before Empress Lin could answer the question, she continued to speak. Her voice was soft at the beginning, and gradually became sonorous and powerful. Concubine Qin deliberately took this dress for my concubine. My concubine still felt familiar at that time. If she hadn't been urging all the time, she would never dare to wear it at will. It's clear that Concubine Qin deliberately framed my concubine. The flower eyes on the street show some encouragement. Instead of interrupting, they look over the crowd and fall on Qinya silently. Qinya is the most intelligent. She already has an idea in her heart. At the moment, she sees the flowers in the street coming over, so she quickly and quietly retreats. However, this time, she just went to the outside of the palace first. She glanced at the maids who were guarding outside the palace, and recognized a maiden who had followed the lady before. Qinya hurriedly called the maid in waiting, explained her identity and whispered in her ear. See other palace maids see to come over. Then intentionally raised high voice way. Our princess is quite unfamiliar in the palace. You and remember that cotton cloth to quickly bring. I know. Please rest assured. The maid in waiting was also clever. She answered with cooperation, and went down in a hurry. As for what this cotton cloth is, it is naturally used by women to come to the moon. Such an excuse will never arouse people's suspicion. At that time, the palace was another scene. Empress Lin, relying on her family power and Yen Moli, an outstanding son, has been in the back palace for so many years. Although there are private struggles among the concubines, no one dares to be presumptuous in front of her. And Xu Fei is no exception. But Xu Fei was a low-key woman, and she seldom suffered such persecution. But even so, she did not dare to compete with Empress Lin. Now seeing Xu Fei's retort, Lin Huang's back was cold. He endured his anger and said, What evidence do you have when you say that Qin Fei framed you? Looking at it, it's clear that you want to climb and bite at random when you see it exposed. Poor imperial concubine Qin is old and yellow. Seeing this, she quickly pinches her handkerchief and cries out, Sister Xu Fei, my palace is kind enough to cover up your plea for you, but you are so slandering me. In the face of their repeated attacks, Xu Fei was filled with grievances and indignation, and her soft cheek turned red. Emo Shanghua couldn't look down. She looked straight at Chen Fei without fear. What evidence does Chen Fei have? Can you just rely on these 2 words to determine the responsibility of one at will? If the Empress is so credulous, is it not to make everyone in the harem feel cold? Is it not to make all the ladies see the joke? Said, she stepped forward 2 steps, looking at Empress Lin sincerely. Mother, if this matter only listened to the one-sided words of Princess Chun, not only unfair, but also damage your prestige, please think twice. Princess, you don't pay attention to the Empress. Imperial concubine Chen almost jumped up in anger and pointed straight at the stranger. You are so young, and your mind is so vicious. You don't slander our palace. Now even the Empress dares to criticize. Is this what you should do as a daughter-in-law? At this moment Li Fei, who originally advocated punishing Xu Fei severely, didn't continue to speak. She looked at the situation in the hall thoughtfully. Empress Lin sat on her high position and looked down at the flowers on the street. She said coldly, according to the folk saying, our palace is your mother-in-law, Princess Yu. As your daughter-in-law, you are so disobedient and disrespectful. Today, our palace must not be spared. Then, regardless of the different looks of the officials and their families, he said, go back and ban for 3 months, and copy the MSNG twice a day as a punishment. The lady went beyond the palace rules and despised Zhonggong. She immediately stripped off her clothes and banned her for half a year. She was punished in March. In public stripped clothes, this is how much shame. Queen Lin is to be in front of the public. Mercilessly fell Xu Fei's face. Xu Fei's face turned white, her straight back softened, and she looked at the flowers with a wry smile. I'm implicating you. The flower on the street has never seen Xu Fei. She has a pair of quiet eyes. She looks at Empress Lin, and her eyes flash a little unwilling and stubborn. Inger immediately stepped forward and yelled, Princess Yu, who gave you the courage to look at the Empress like this, don't you agree? Empress Lin's eyes narrowed slightly, and a sense of obliteration flashed through her eyes. What's the queen singing? She's punishing Princess Xu and Princess Yu. I don't want to let go of any of the people I value. In everyone's surprise, Baorong Emperor's voice suddenly came in. Empress Lin jumped in her heart and quickly got up and walked down to salute. When they saw this, they quickly got up and went to the ceremony together. Baorong Emperor walked into the hall and stopped in front of Empress Lin. However, he did not let the people get up. Empress Lin felt her heart beating fast. She knelt down with her restless eyes and tried to open her mouth. I don't know your majesty is here. Please forgive me. Baorong Emperor stares at Empress Lin's headache, and his lips overflow with a sneer. I've been watching for a long time, and the Empress's indiscriminate appearance is really powerful. The tension of the string in the queen's heart broke with a sound of struggle, which changed from half squatting to kneeling on both knees. Your Majesty, I'm not like this, but Princess, you really disrespected me. I'm angry in my heart, so I'll be punished a little. Oh, is that right? Baorong Emperor obviously didn't believe it. He went over Empress Lin and directly sat on the high position. He waved back to the crowd at will. All the people got up with Baorong Emperor's action. Only Empress Lin could turn around on her knees. Her momentum just disappeared completely. She wanted to explain, but Baorongdi obviously didn't have to listen to it. She pointed to the flowers on the street and said, You can tell me what's going on. Yes. Emo Shanghua is neither humble nor overbearing. He takes a fair attitude and repeats the whole story from beginning to end. At the end, she glanced at Empress Lin, who was still kneeling on the ground, with a smile. Chen just thought that it was too one-sided for her mother to listen to Chen Fei's words. Unexpectedly, she decided that Chen was disrespectful to her mother-in-law and punished her for not saying it. She insisted on listening to Chen Fei's one-sided words. There was no exaggeration in this remark. In front of so many people, Empress Lin wanted to refute it, but she couldn't. Baorong Emperor's face completely sank down, and his eyes coldly looked at Empress Lin. Empress, do you usually govern the 6 palaces like this? The color of the back of the Emperor Lin turned white, and the palm of his hand was greasy. My concubine, my concubine. Don't say it. Emperor Baorong's eyes flashed a touch of impatience. He turned his head and took a look. He stood quietly, neither fighting to defend himself, nor taking the opportunity to fall into the well. He felt a little comforted. Looking at Empress Lin, who is now here, after being questioned by Emperor Baorong, she has been defeated. Her face is so white that she can't say a word of refutation. In contrast, the weight in Baorong Emperor's heart naturally shifted to the lady's side. Look at your posture now, but there is also the majesty of a queen who makes a fool of herself in front of so many faces. Mo Shanghua took a silent look at the official wives standing in a row, and it was funny to see that all of them pressed their heads very low. Empress Lin specially called so many people to come, but Li Wei didn't achieve her goal. Instead, she was reprimanded by Emperor Baorong in public. I don't know what face she will have in the future. Just thinking about it, he listened to Emperor Baorong's voice and said, I see. You are the one who should really reflect. These days, you will stay at Cunning Palace and learn how to be fair. It is clear that everyone frowned and did not dare to look up. However, Empress Lin felt that people's taunting or humiliating eyes fell on her, and almost swallowed her up. Full of humiliation, she squeezed her sleeve tightly with her fingers and said with pale cheek, I know my mistake. I should reflect on myself. Thank you, Your Majesty. One side of the Qinfei see this situation, where still can stand, quickly knelt down beside the Queen Lin. Your Majesty, my concubine, I didn't mean to say that. Just remember wrong. I hope Your Majesty light punishment. Her forehead was so close to the ground that she seemed frightened to the extreme. The corner of the flower's lips on the street raised a touch of sarcastic radiance and said, Father, Empress Chun is the crime of slander. Emperor Baorong, as the king of a country, naturally could not be biased in front of the public. He immediately ordered with an angry face. Imperial concubine Chen deliberately slandered her, and she was immediately reduced to Jiu. She was forbidden for a full year, and she could not be called out. Chen Fei smell speech whole person all paralyzed come down. Lip petal tiny shiver, can't say a word. After the punishment, Baorong Emperor looked at Xu Fei again with a mild tone. Xu Fei, you will have to pay more attention to the 6 palaces in the future. Xu Fei hesitated a little, and was about to refuse politely. Baorong Emperor seemed to see her mind and said, Don't ask for mercy. I'll give it to you only when I value you. I believe you can deal with it. Mo Shanghua silently tugged at the corner of Xu Fei's dress and whispered, Lady Xu Fei, I'm not grateful. Xu Imperial concubine complexion of saw Mo Shang to spend one eye, then bend over to thank a favor. Minister concubine, thank Your Majesty. Baorong Emperor nodded, and asked Lu Wang to help her up. His eyes turned around in the hall, and finally fell on the flower on the street. What the immortal master said is true. You can really afford that kind of speculation. Baorongdi's eyes on the flowers on the street were a little appreciated, and his attitude towards her was quite different from before. The flower on the street hung down her eyes, stood upright, and her voice was neither humble nor overbearing. My father and emperor praised me falsely, but my son and minister couldn't bear it. Emperor Baorong gave a meaningful smile. He didn't worry too much about it. He said, It's thanks to you that the Empress didn't sit down to be confused and criticized. I'll give you 100 taels of gold and several boxes of gold and silver jewelry. Thank you, Lord Long. On the street, there is no way to shirk. I kneel down to thank you very much. So really last time, she was very satisfied. After all, there are a lot of places where King Yu's house needs to use gold and silver in the future, and her property is not much. Naturally, the more gold and silver she can save, the better. After everything was explained, Baorong Emperor left with Xu Fei. As for this chrysanthemum appreciation meeting, it was also a particularly embarrassing ending. Of course, Emperor Baorong did not forget the disguised threat that the wives who came here today would not be allowed to spread it. However, the paper can't stop the fire, and the matter eventually spread widely in the official circle of the imperial city. Empress Lin stays in Cunning Palace day by day, which means that Baori can allow her. She has no face to meet people. Naturally, it's all in the future. At that time, Emo Shanghua was preparing to leave the palace. For the first time, she met Ning Tongji, who came into the palace. The flowers on the street and Ning know that at the same time. They suddenly step. The eunuch who passed by saw that both of them saluted separately. Emo Shanghua glanced over the palace maids who knew how to salute and said casually, "I haven't seen you for many days. The identity of the sun is very different. It's just a false name." Rather no astringent Mao a smile, on the face of a school of light clouds. The flowers on the street were red-lipped, and they were smiling at him. If it is true, why can the Son of God trust His Majesty so much? And the illusory bird, can't it just be a cover-up? This kind of outspoken words, rather familiar with knowledge, was not half surprised and embarrassed, and said, "The princess thought it was a cover-up, so naturally it was a cover-up." This person really knows how to play Tai Chi. He neither admits, nor denies what she says or asks. He is really cunning. Seeing this, I felt a little cold in my eyes. I didn't want to talk to him and say, "I want to go back to the palace and ask the sun to make way." Wait a minute. Rather no face but suddenly serious. A few minutes, low voice call her. The flowers on the street are shining, and they keep on walking. Rather no to see. The face is not a bit anxious, waved his sleeve, a glimmer of light from his sleeve. Then they saw a bird flying wings, toward the flowers on the street, flying past. The flower on the street slowed down, and her eyes moved with the bird's track. Qinya, like a big enemy, stood up and stood in front of Emo Shanghua. She said warily, "Princess, you fainted that day. You should be more careful today." Emo Shanghua pulls Qinya behind her, holds her shoulder up and says with a smile, "I just want to see what it is. You don't have to worry." But princess maidservant. Qinya's worries increased instead of decreasing. "Don't worry, it's in the palace. With so many eyes staring at me, the sun won't do anything to me." Emo Shanghua touched Qinya's hairy head and opened her mouth with a smile. Qinya just nodded, but her eyes were still a little worried, staring at the flowers on the street. Emo Shanghua came forward with peace of mind. She wanted to reach out to catch the bird, but as soon as she raised her hand, the bird automatically flew to her palm. A flash of white light. She only felt a bright eyes. The bird will be turned into a paper bird, spread out to sea. There is no content on the paper, only dense creases are particularly clear. Rao is already seen once. Emo Shanghua Mao or can't help but across a touch of surprise. In the mind suddenly flashed a segment. Vaguely, she is also such an action. A stabbing white light flashed in her hand, but the bird in her hand is more exquisite than the one in front of her. "Who are you?" Staring at the hands of the white paper for a long time, Emo Shanghua suddenly raised his head, fixed looking at rather no. Ning knows to slowly lift a step to approach. The lip cape holds a cloud light breeze light smile. "I am me, however, if say the origin, you and I perhaps have some similarities." This time, the color of flowers on the street has completely changed. Ning knows that the eyes are so cool and not aggressive, but now they are like an all, full of insight. Emo Shanghua thinks for a moment that he seems to be naked and standing in front of him. He saw everything through. A strong uneasiness rose in the flower's heart. She came from a different world. No one knows about it except Yin Beicheng. Why would Ning know? Is there really such a mysterious divination in this world, or what kind of magic they say? Silent for a long time, the flowers on the street just opened their mouth, and their eyes were full of vigilance. What's the meaning of Shengzi's words? Ning knows to lightly sigh a breath. On the face seemed to have some regrets. "You rest assured, is not the meaning that you imagine. Wait for the opportunity arrived, you will know." What is he regretting? Emo Shanghua keenly catches the regret in Ning Jimu's eyes, and becomes more confused and alert in her heart. Ning knew what he had seen, but he only had the slightest explanation. He took out the box that Xue Xue had sent last time and said, "Keep it. When the time is ripe, you can open it." There was no malice in his eyes, but it was as deep and unpredictable. The flower on the street frowned slightly. "I just felt that the man in front of me was just like a few layers of fog. I couldn't see through anyway." Qinya recognized the box. Some vigilant pulled the corner of the flower on the street, and said in a low voice, "Princess, the Lord didn't let you take it last time, so you should consider it carefully. Well. Mo Shanghua casually answered raised hand to take over that box. Before I had time to ask a few questions, Ning knew that he had already turned around and left. His steps were as light and leisurely as before. He was more free and easy than anyone else in this palace. Mo Shanghua even thought for a moment that he might rather know that, like him, he is not a person in this world, so he is indifferent to these things. But what's the explanation for his strange temptations? And what does that strange bird represent? Including the light and almost weightless box in her hand. What's in it? Princess, is there anything ominous in it? You have to be careful. I can't do it. I'll lock it up later. Mo Shanghua thinks all the way in her heart, and Qinya worries all the way. She can't help chatting with Mo Shanghua. Don't worry, it will be okay. Mo Shanghua pinches Qinya's white and smooth cheek and smiles at her. Qinya's slightly fleshy cheek was pinched by the flowers on the street, and her eyebrows were still tightly screwed up, which made her very lovely. Mo Shanghua sighs with a smile. Xiao Qinya, you are more and more water spirit now. Qinya's attention was diverted a little. Her cheek was slightly hot. Princess, you make fun of me again. The flowers on the street smile, but there is no smile in the eyes. When he returned to the house and had a meal, Mo Shanghua used sleeping as an excuse to drive Qinya back to bed. He took out the box again and just studied it in detail. Although she had diverted Qinya's attention before, Qinya actually found the big wooden box and wanted to lock it in the box as soon as she returned to the mansion. She didn't say much in order to reassure her. Now she also took it out. If you look closer at the candlelight, there is nothing special about the box, not even any sign of the witch fairy clan. The carving outside the box is just ordinary. You can buy it on the street. The box was not locked. The flower in the street studied the box for a long time. After thinking about it, she reached out to open the box. However, it is clear that there is no lock, but I don't know why the box can't be opened. Don't understand, subconsciously tried again but still no response. Is it forbidden in the eyes? Is it true that there is a fairy tale in this world? Mo Shanghua's heart gradually shakes, and he is more alert to Ning Tongji. It's really disturbing to see such a man lurking in front of Baorong Emperor. On the street, the eyebrows are tightly tightened, and all kinds of thoughts are changing in my heart. However, after thinking about it, she couldn't understand anything. She simply put the box in the bed and closed her eyes. If changed to do as usual, Mo Shanghua heart thought so heavy. Only on the bed will also be late to sleep. Today, on the contrary, she sleeps sweeter than ever. She had a dream again today. The dream that had not been dreamed for nearly half a month reappeared in front of her again. This time, the situation in the dream is much clearer, and their words are completely in front of us. In the endless darkness, a wisp of ghost floats and sinks quietly. Her eyes are very shallow and translucent. Her weakness seems to be swallowed by the endless darkness at any time. Cloud dance, cloud dance. Her eyes closed gently, but her heart was obstinately repeating a name, full of bitterness. Well, who asked me to promise her? A black-robed demon finally emerged from the vast reincarnation road. Who are you? Her voice was so weak that it seemed as if it would disappear in the next second. Yongya, who has a pretty face, can't hide his inborn strong breath. His approach makes her soul seem more and more weak. But she did not feel afraid. 100 years of company. Let her have been familiar with his breath. This is his first appearance in 100 years. Demon God looked at her. Her eyes are still no fear of death, but some are still persistent and bitter. What is the existence of kinship? The devil's eyes were as deep as an abyss, and his voice said in a low voice, I can fulfill your wish, but only if you have to pay for it, will you? To fulfill her wish? Is it? I am willing, no matter what the cost, I am willing. As long as she can see her daughter again, she is willing to do anything, at any cost. Okay. I hope you won't regret it then. When the demon god brushed her hand, a black fog immediately shrouded her and attacked the whole reincarnation path, including the Kunlun mirror that could see the past and present life. Boom. The picture suddenly turned, but the demon god seemed to have exhausted all his efforts and essence, and her breath was several times weaker than usual. Before she had time to ask more questions, she was put into reincarnation by him. Yan Beiqing, who came back slowly, entered the room with ease, took off his shirt, lifted the veil, and was ready to sleep beside Mo Shanghua. I thought I would see the quiet sleeping face of the flowers on the street, but I didn't think about it. Under the soft moonlight, what I saw was the frown locked and the cold sweat on the street. Not only that, her ruddy lips gently open, the mouth issued a few low gibberish. Yan Beiqing's face suddenly changed. He raised his hand nervously and stroked Mo Shanghua's forehead, but it was a cold and humid sweat. Emoer, wake up quickly. Full of worry, Yan Beiqing stroked Mo Shanghua's cheek with one hand, held her hand tightly with the other, and called again and again. Mo Shanghua didn't wake up. On the contrary, she held Yan Beiqing's hand tightly. Her eyes were moist, and her tears ran down her cheeks into her hair. I'm sorry. The babble in her mouth suddenly became clearer, and her body trembled slightly. Emoer, what are you talking about? I'm here. Yan Beiqing was completely frightened by the appearance of Mo Shanghua. He said a few words without hesitation. He didn't care about anything at the moment and said in a loud voice, Come on. Don't go. Mo Shanghua suddenly shouts and suddenly opens her eyes. Qinya rushed in at this time too. She didn't have time to fasten her clothes, and her hair was in a mess. I'm here, my lord. What's the matter? Qinya's voice had just fallen, and Mo Shanghua, who had come to her senses, gradually recovered. She took her hand out of Yan Beiqing's hand and sat up with her forehead in one hand. However, her eyes were not ignorant. On the contrary, she felt a deep silence. Emoer, how do you feel? But you feel a little uncomfortable. Yan Beiqing grasped the slender shoulders of Mo Shanghua with both hands, full of worries, and some confusion that had not yet faded. I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with me. Seeing that Yan Beiqing was so worried, Mo Shanghua chuckled and turned her eyes to Qinya. Qinya, go back to sleep. I'm okay. When Qinya came, Mo Shanghua woke up and didn't see her terrible appearance. At this time, she didn't think much when she said so. She said, I'm outside. Please call me if you have something to do. As a close maid, Qinya sleeps in the ear room of the hospital every day for the convenience of being summoned by strangers. The door is closed by Qinya again, but Yan Beiqing suddenly leans over and hugs Mo Shanghua tightly in his arms. Mo Shanghua lung, and then also reached back to embrace Yan Beiqing, whispered, I just talked in my sleep, scared you? Yan Beiqing just hugged Mo Shanghua tightly and said nothing. It seems that only such close contact can make him feel at ease. For a long time, he slowly released the flowers on the street. A pair of quiet pupils is full of deep feeling. Dream of what? As if just asking people have useless food in general calm tone, but let people abnormal peace of mind. Mo Shanghua chuckled, raised her hand and stroked Yan Beiqing's eyebrows. I can't remember, but I remember what you just looked like. With such a soft and clever appearance, Yan Beiqing's heart was burning. He could not help but droop his eyes and kiss her gently on her forehead. Not enough, it seems not enough. He bowed his head again, and after 2 successive kisses, he raised his head again, holding the cheek of the flower on the street and said, If you dream of something bad, you can tell me that you don't have to worry. Mo Shanghua lowered her eyes, carefully recalled for a long time, still shaking her head. I didn't cheat you, I really can't remember. What am I like just now? Is it like last time? Yan Beiqing nodded, holding her shoulder tightly. More than that, you don't know why you have been talking nonsense, I'm sorry. The flower eyebrows on the street suddenly frowned, half puzzled and half annoyed. Yan Beiqing couldn't bear to see Mo Shanghua look like this. He took her hand and pulled out a smile from the corner of his lips. In fact, it's all right. The main reason is that you have been holding my hand tightly. It can be seen that you are in a dream, and you have only me in your heart. Well, don't think about it. Go to bed early. The frowning brow of the flower on the street slightly stretched out, and he smiled slightly towards Yan Beiqing. He moved his body to make way for Yan Beiqing. Under this action, her waist and abdomen seemed to be hurt by a hard object, and she glanced down. It was the wooden box that he had temporarily placed on the bed. Could it be? Mo Shenghua's mind turned, and Yu Guang glanced at Yan Beicheng, who was lying beside him. He pushed the wooden box inside and put it into the quilt. Yan Beicheng is always relaxed around Mo Shenghua. He doesn't notice her move. After lying down, he takes Mo Shenghua in his arms and falls asleep together. This time, Mo Shenghua was sleeping very peacefully. Yan Mo kept his pen still for a long time, and the ink from the tip of the pen fell on the clean paper industry and stained another paper. In his heart, he was so depressed that he threw his writing brush into the brush washer heavily, and the ink color suddenly turned a side of water into turbid black. Your Highness, calm down. After the bookcase in front of him, 2 counselors knelt on the ground, and one of them could not help but dissuade him. Another person also said, Your Highness, the Empress is really reckless. I still think that you should not plead for her at this time. Yan Emoli extremely irritable mouth, a pair of eagle eyes full of blood. Then you want this king how to do? Now the Queen Mother is not only deprived of rights in the palace, but also of dignity. If it goes on like this, would it be better to let the lady and her son climb behind the Queen Mother? What's more, the Queen is a great support for him. If the Empress is suppressed to this point, he, the son of the Empress, will lose power greatly, and the trend of the central government will also change greatly. The most important reason is that he is the son of Queen Lin. Now the situation has reached such a point, how can he still sit? That bastard of Yan Beicheng has been fighting against me in the court all day, and he has been courting Shersan again and again these 2 days. My father is angry with me because of my mother's reason, and he is always scolding me these 2 days. If I don't find a way to make my mother spoil me, what can I do? You say, what else? Referring to the events of these days, Yan Moli was full of anger, and his gloomy eyes almost turned into substance. A counselor was silent for a moment, and said, Your Highness, since you are worried about the affairs between King Yu and His Royal Highness 13, you should calm down and not plead for the Empress. Even if you are in the East, Your Highness needs to dredge up and let it only have the last 2 memorials. In the East, the Marquis is very powerful. Your Majesty will not abandon the Queen easily. In a short time he will be depressed. Another counselor also agreed, That's right. He doesn't have nothing to do with His Royal Highness Yu. He has a plan here. If he waits for a while, he can order someone to play to His Majesty. His Highness will be able to have no worries then. As for His Royal Highness, he has always been in poor health. If he dies suddenly in the future, no one will be surprised. Yan Mo Li Malbottom gloomy not only didn't disperse, but surged on a more intense killing intention. It's not only Yan Xinchuan, Yan Beicheng's life, sooner or later the king will also accept. Among the princes, Yan Xinchuan, who was favored by Emperor Baorong, was the most annoying one. It's a personal talent for Yan Beicheng to get such annoyance from him. Get up. Since the 2 counselors had an idea, Yan Moli's attitude towards them was also relaxed. His face has returned to normal, habitual command-style tone. Yan Xinchuan there, how can you find out what? Don't worry, Your Highness, but they are all superficial things. It's not enough to be afraid. The counselor's face is full of confidence, and he has no worries at all. Finally, there is a more pleasant news. Yan Mo Li heart of boredom also followed, scattered a little bit. Just about to ask something, a little guy at the door suddenly knocked on the door. Yan Mo's sword eyebrows slightly frowned, and his face was impatient to say, Tell Your Highness that the princess made the soup herself, and said she wanted to give it to you face to face. The boy's careful voice came in. At the mention of Lin Xiangyin, Yan Mo's fierce eyes can't help but scratch a touch of disgust. At the thought of her chirping and sticky appearance, he feels irritable. When I went back to the princess, I said that the king was discussing business and couldn't get away. Impatient to return, Yan Mo Li and cold voice command away. Hereafter don't allow any person to step into my king's study at will. Yes. Outside the door, the little boy gave a trembling answer, and went back with a sad face. When Lin Xiangyin, who was waiting outside, heard the boy's reply, she couldn't help feeling disappointed. Is cousin so busy? I haven't seen my cousin for several days. In this way, you can help me pass the message again. Said turned him out to see one I own intimate maid. The maid understood it and immediately took out a bag of silver and put it into the hands of the boy. But the little fellow, like a hot potato, stepped back 2 steps, full of embarrassment. Princess, when you can be so busy, you can embarrass the slave. Seeing this, Lin Xiangyin was quite dispirited. If she had been in the past, maybe she would have made some trouble. Today, she just bit her lip and turned around in disappointment. I'll come back later. The maid took back her purse and quickly followed her, comforting her. I heard that the Empress was reprimanded by Her Majesty in the palace today. Your Highness must be upset because of this. She certainly didn't mean to miss the princess. Lin Xiangyin forced herself to pull out a smile, but she couldn't hide her dispirited expression between her eyebrows and eyes. I know that my cousin has always treated me very well, and won't treat me like that. Since she was punished by Emperor Baorong, she has been in the mansion for nearly a month. Although Yen Moli is still the same to her as before, I don't know if she's very attentive. She always feels that she's not the same. I've seen her in the future these days. Although she was sad, she told herself that Yen Moli was not that kind of person. If she could go out, she would go to the palace to see her aunt and relieve Yen Mo's worries. It took Yen Xinchuan only 1.5 months to hand over a fold to Emperor Baorong about the false lose case, making it clear that the matter had been thoroughly investigated. Mo Shanghua was clearly investigated in the case of murdering her mother. It was the false Lu family who deliberately framed her. As for the purpose of fake Lu's passing off Prime Minister Qianjin, it was finally concluded that it was the detailed work of the state of the moon, and the symbol on his body was the best evidence. In this way, everything is a result. Baorongdi was deeply gratified by this, greatly praised Yen Xinchuan, and handed over the account department to his supervisor. Not to mention how good the Hubu is, but this move is one of the candidates who completely put Yen Xinchuan into the crown prince. Yen Xinchuan also did not refuse, immediately received the order to thank you. Yen Moli stands on one side to see of clear, the eagle Mao inside delimits A to put on a very deep kill idea. What's more annoying to Yen Moli is that Yen Xinchuan has moved out of the palace and set up a mansion outside the palace. The secret chess he once played in Yen Xinchuan's palace seems to have been detected and replaced one by one. Now the whole 13 princes' palace is airtight, and it's very difficult for him to play. Yen Beiqing and Yen Xinchuan both put the overall situation first and abandoned the past. They often met in private to discuss. However, in order to hide people's eyes and ears, and also to confuse Yen Moli, it seems that Yen Beiqing, seeing that Yen Xinchuan was highly appreciated by Emperor Baorong, intended to curry favor with him. The affairs of Chaotang were soon reported to Mo Shanghua by Yanbei City. Yen Beiqing, gently holding the hand of Mo Shanghua, said, "Your past grievances have now been cleared. In the future, no one can criticize you with these things. It's really gratifying. It's hard for me to show some relaxation on the flower face." I look at Yen Beiqing with burning eyes. I know you're also working behind your back. Thank you very much. Not only this matter, but also thank you for your willingness to help me in the past situation. Yen Beiqing grinned a big smile on his lips, and his eyes were very gentle. You don't have to thank me. If it wasn't for my actions that day, how could I marry such a good wife as you? The corner of the flower's lips on the street was gently raised, and he wrung Yen Beiqing's white cheek with a smile, and said, "Don't say that. Has Your Majesty been calling Ning recently? And you, the national teacher, have you ever entered the palace?" Yen Beiqing caught Mo Shanghua's hand and played with it. He said, "Emperor Baorong has a slight illness in the near future. He is more and more eager about the matter of longevity. He asks me to make some medicine for him every day. He would rather know it than know why. He can show him some mysterious things, that is, he is not willing to reveal anything about it. Emperor Baorong has not called him for several days. See him." Mo Shanghua nodded slightly, his eyes crossed a touch of complexity. This man's mind is unpredictable. I think for a long time, now suddenly feel his purpose may not be in the court. How can I see it? Yen North City slightly picks eyebrow, low voice asks away. Mo Shanghua's face was quiet and silent for a long time. Then he said, if his mind were really on the court, the situation in the middle of the court would never be like this. With Yan Moli's personality, he will try his best to control Ning Tongji, and use his presence to control Baorong Emperor. If so, Ning Tongji will try his best to win over Baorong Emperor. I'm afraid that you, the national teacher, will not be able to sit still at the moment. Yan Beiqing's name of national master is better than his ability to observe the celestial phenomena, know the 8 trigrams, and refine pills. Naturally, it is not as eye-catching as Ning's fairy art. Emperor Baorong is now pursuing the art of immortality. Naturally, both sides are unwilling to let it go, but they never think about it. They are rather familiar with it, but they only show their hand occasionally, and they are not willing to teach him the art of immortality. Yan Beiqing's mind was penetrating and sensitive, and he didn't lose out on the flowers. He quickly thought about the reason. I'm afraid the origin of this man is not simple. I sent someone to the far north to inquire about it, but I didn't find anything. I know very little about the Wuxian clan, and I didn't even find the location of the Wuxian clan. In your opinion, what is his purpose? Yan Beiqing stopped his hand playing with flowers on the street, and his sword eyebrows were frowning. Mo Shanghua also frowned and shook his head. After thinking about it, he said, he doesn't walk around like the officials in the court. The people in his hands are honest and peaceful. It's too mysterious. I don't know how many times I've thought about this matter, but I can't figure it out. I simply stopped thinking about it and said, no matter what his purpose is, there's no bad news for us. The most important thing now is Yan Moli. Thinking of Yan Mo's cruel and insidious temperament, she was very worried. This man is cruel and has suffered many setbacks in recent days. He will surely fight back. You should pay more attention to him in recent days. Yan Beiqing nodded solemnly, holding the hand of the flower on the street slightly tight. I've wronged you. I used to go out and walk when I was in Yuzhou, but now I'm locked in the inner house all day in the imperial city. The flower on the street gave a faint smile and said, I eat well and dress well in the house. I don't have to work hard. Besides being bored, it's okay. I have also thought that after a period of time, I will open a hospital in central Beijing. I can pass the time by visiting the clinic occasionally. The world doesn't have to be modern. There are mobile phones, computers, and other things that can relieve boredom. She's really bored recently, but it's better than the days when she used to lick blood at the edge of a knife. If not for their unstable foundation in the imperial city, she would have opened the hospital early. Yan Beiqing see, Lo smile will take flowers into his arms. This day I won't let you wait too long. They look at each other and smile. There is deep affection in each other's eyes. Since the clear dream of the dream scene that day, the flowers on the street will dream every day. She tried to put the wooden box away, but the dream stopped miraculously. As soon as she put the wooden box back to her pillow, the dream would go on again. Yan Beiqing was very busy in the imperial city. He often came back very late, sometimes too late, so he went to his study to sleep. He slept with the stranger for a few days, and it seemed that he was not affected by the wooden box. On the surface, everything was as usual. On the other hand, she does not only have the same dream every day, but also from the 5th day on, the scenes in her dream can be recalled when she is awake, and her modern affairs are played repeatedly in her mind. She also fell into a new confusion. The soul of the woman in the dream and the man in black were all dressed in the clothes of ancient people, but they didn't seem to be unique to people of this era. What's more, she was worried about the most mysterious things. She didn't know who the woman in her dream was, and she didn't know the identity of the man. She was very upset. Early in the morning, she simply took the wooden box to the tea house where she met Hua Qianlu before, and asked people to find Hua Qianlu. After waiting for 2 hours, the flower could not help calling the steward here. Your son has something to do today. Can't you come here? The steward's face flashed a bit strange color, but still nodded. The pavilion master has some things to deal with, and has not come to inspect the building in recent days. Mo Shanghua looked out of the window at the dark sky and stood up. When your son comes back, please tell him for me that I came. If so, you can rest assured. This person is worthy of being in charge of Hua Qianlu. He speaks and does things very well. After hearing the words of Hua, he immediately bows and answers with a smile. Mo Shanghua nodded slightly and took the wooden box to leave. She had already arrived at the door, but suddenly saw a carriage stopped at the corner of the street. A man was holding a woman in his arms and was in a hurry from the backyard. Mo Shanghua's eyesight is very good. She immediately recognizes that the person is Hua Qianlu, who has kept her waiting all afternoon. With a thought in her heart, she hurriedly followed in and said in a loud voice, "Lord Yu." Before finishing a sentence, you can see that Hua Qianlu has turned around in a hurry, and the face of the woman in her arms is clearly reflected in the eyes of the flower on the street. At the moment, Hua Qianlu's face is pale and her eyes are closed. The woman who doesn't move is not someone else. It's Nanha, who left the palace not long ago because she died of illness. Mo Shanghua's teasing, which had not yet been spilled out of his lips, was swept away. His fine eyebrows frowned tightly. He was surprised and worried. What's the matter? Hua Qianlu didn't have time to explain, and the thin sweat on his forehead showed his nervousness. Don't say so much, let me go in for treatment first, said, holding South Crane in a hurry into a room in the backyard. Seeing this, the steward in the building ordered him to burn some hot water and put on clean pajamas. As for the guests in the front yard, they were all sent away. The tea house closed its doors to thank the guests, and the people in the building were not allowed to go in and out at will. South Crane is flat on the bed, flowers on the street. This just see South Crane injury. Just now he was hugged tightly by Hua Qianlu. Now he put it on the bed, and Mo Shanghua could see clearly. It turned out that Nanhe's left shoulder was injured, and it was full of dry blood. The clothes on his shoulder seemed to be cut off by a sharp weapon, and all the broken clothes adhered to the wound. Chinya, go back to the house quickly and get my medicine box. The flower on the street, with a dignified face, gives orders in a deep voice. Seeing this, Chinya immediately nodded and ran out with her legs. Seeing this, Hua Qianlu suddenly stopped Chinya and said, "I'll go with you." Said then pull Chinya's wrist, regardless of her reaction, pull her out of the room. After that he didn't care to find a good horse anymore. He untied the horse in front of the carriage outside the door, and took Chinya with him to gallop away. Mo Shanghua doesn't care how they go now. Her whole person all falls into a kind of extremely attentive dignified state again. The language speed extremely fast command. Go to prepare 2 ginseng slices first, then take scissors to come over. Hua Qianlu left, and the steward in the tea house was still there. Seeing that Hua Qianlu had just listened to the words of Mo Shanghua, now she told her to do it simply, and soon she had everything she needed. Mo Shanghua put the ginseng into the mouth of Nanha, hanging her life for her first, then took it and saw it, carefully and attentively cut the broken steps in the wound of Nanha. The whole sleeve was cut off by her, but the wound on her shoulder only showed 1/3, and the rest extended into her chest. Mo Shanghua's face was dignified, and she told him in a cold voice, "Leave 2 women to help, and the rest of the people will leave." The steward turned his head bitterly and cleaned up the house according to what Mo Shanghua said. All that was left in the room was flowers, and 2 maidservants who were left to help. Mo Shanghua had to cut the skirt of Nanhe's chest, which made the injury of Nanhe clear. The wound was a knife wound. It ran from the left shoulder to the left chest, and almost reached the heart. The skin and flesh of the wound rolled outward. The skin and flesh were split, and the blood was drenched. It was terrible. What's more important is that as soon as the extra clothes are cut, the blood will break through the shackles and flow out. Mo Shanghua busily points several acupoints of Nanhe, but it makes the blood flow slower. The tea house is in a prosperous place, and the palace is not far from here. Under the quick action, it soon came back. Hua Qianlu doesn't know what's going on in the house at this time. He enters the house in a hurry. Before the steward can stop him, he has already entered the house. For the convenience of handling, the clothes of Nanha were damaged by the flower scissors on the street, and the whole left arm was exposed. The wound was scarlet and dazzling, and the bloodstain was gorgeous. It looked terrible. Such an exciting situation directly bumps into Hua Qianliu's eyes. His eyes are stabbed by Nanhe's blood, and he is stunned on the spot. The flower on the street stands aside to block the sight of flowers and willows. Where's Qinya? Here is the maid. Qinya came in breathlessly, holding Mo Shanghua's acupuncture knife bag in her hand. Flower thousand willow, this just like reaction come over, put down the medicine box in the hand, then hurried out. You must save him. After a while, his worried voice came out of the door. Mo Shanghua didn't answer, so there was no time to guess Hua Qianliu's state of mind at the moment. Open the medicine box, and spare no effort to rescue. Nanha's wound is too deep. It's obviously impossible to stop bleeding only by simple bandaging. The flowers on the street give her hemp boiling powder, and suture it with catgut. It took more than 2 hours for the medical treatment to come down. Flower willow seems to be more nervous than the flower on the street. When everything is handled properly, and then called in, one eye is full of blood. There was no time to thank the flowers on the street. His eyes were full of Nanha, who was lying on the bed at the moment and had changed his clean clothes, but still pale and unconscious. When he was sober, he had a beautiful face, but he was always proud in his heart, and he always let people get close to him. Now she is very clever. Even breathing seems to be much softer than usual. Wait, breathe? Flower thousand willow, greatly surprised, raised a hand to probe the nose breath of South Crane. Haven't yet had time to move the hand, mercilessly shake, full face impatient. This is how to return a responsibility. Isn't it that she hasn't been out of danger? The flower on the street saw this, and her mind turned. When she reached her throat, her eyebrows were locked tightly. Her wound is too heavy. It's not sure whether she can survive this evening. Hua Qianliu's hands trembled at the same time. She wanted to reach out and caress Nanhe's cheek, but she was afraid of hurting her. She was at a loss for a moment, and her face was regretted and worried. Save her, I beg you. Flower willow suddenly stood up, went to the front of the flower, tone almost humble. This pitiful appearance let the stranger flower heart suddenly have a few, but still deliberately frown on the face, said, "Things are not as simple as you think. Now she lost too much blood, difficult to support. But I have a way, just need you to sacrifice yourself, with your own blood to enter her body." Flower thousand willow Maoguang bright, then took a few minutes to doubt again. Really have this method? Mo Shanghua nodded solemnly. It's just that the method is too dangerous. If it's not good, you will lose your life with Nanhe. Flowers in the eyes of the thousand willows almost emit light. There is no fear on the face. As long as I can save her, I don't mind. After a pause, he looked down at the unconscious South Crane. His voice was particularly low. This is owed to her, you say how to do? Mo Shanghua saw this, but Mulu was pleased. She patted him on the shoulder and said, I'll tell you the truth, Lord. In fact, Nanha is not in any serious trouble now. It's okay to rest. Everything is normal except that he moves around at will. Flower willow brow tightly twisted into a ball, eyes puzzled. You just said that life is at stake? Mo Shanghua's eyes flashed, touched his nose tip and said, I just look at you like this. I want to test you. Finish saying, don't wait for Flower Thousand Willow attack. She hurriedly changed the topic. Way. South Crane is how to return a responsibility, why can get hurt. Hua Qianlu clenched her fist, and kept silent for a long time. After a long time he looked up again, full of remorse. She is with me to deal with things, for me to block a knife, will be so. The flower on the street frowned and sighed. This is the choice of Nanha. You don't have to blame yourself. However, I would like to remind you that no matter how dissolute you used to be, you should take a closer look at the people around you in the future. The words are very meaningful. Hua Qianlu is not a stupid person. In addition to Hua's deliberate exploration, it is difficult for him to pretend to be stupid. Nanhe's saving each other with his life also moved his heart. The flower on the street saw that he hung his head and arranged what he was thinking. It was inconvenient to ask each other. She wrote a prescription and gave it to Hua Qianlu, saying, She will wake up tomorrow, and I will come here these days. You don't have to worry too much. It's getting late, so I'll go back to my house for a while. He explained what he had to pay attention to when he was preparing to leave. Wait a minute. Hua Qianlu stood up and called to Emo Shanghua. She said solemnly, I have heard some news by accident. I need you to tell Yan Beicheng. On the street, the flower's face is slightly coagulated, and in the past, the flower willow whispers with her in a low voice. On the way back, the flowers on the street did not say a word, and their faces were dignified. Qinya was watching, but she didn't dare to ask any more questions. She just stayed with her. She knows the character of Emo Shanghua best. At this time, it's better to speak less. Even Emo Shanghua won't explain more. There are no other people in the palace now. The whole palace, under the guidance of Emo Shanghua, is respectful to her. As soon as Emo Shanghua comes back, they all come to see her. Emo Shanghua stopped in front of the guard at the door. Has the Lord ever come back? The bodyguard was very honest and shook his head. Report back to the princess. The prince has not come back. Emo Shanghua nodded a little and walked into the palace. As she walked, she said to Qinya, You order people to guard here. When the Lord comes back, please ask him to see me immediately. The bodyguards have their own affairs. They are not allowed to enter the house unless they are important. She can only give orders separately. Qinya nodded and wrote it down carefully. Emo Shanghua didn't have a problem with her body. She sent Qinya to dinner after she went back. She also used some of them, but she didn't wait hungry. After eating, she sat at the bedroom table, drooping her eyes and thinking, waiting for Yan Beicheng. What Hua Qianlu said to her just now really matters. She must discuss with Yan Beicheng as soon as possible. According to what he said, on a whim, he made a bet with Nanha today. He urged him to go to a general's house in the city to explore the secret. Originally, everything was going well, and I heard some unknown things. But I never thought that General Chen had excellent martial arts skills, and discovered their existence. This is the scene now. The reason why they were detected was that they heard that General Chen had the heart of rebellion. General Chen is the father of imperial concubine Chen. General Chen was born in an ordinary family, and his fame came from a small soldier. When he was young, he worked under the queen's mother's family, Donglin. Now Donglin Lin is very kind to him. But General Lin, the son of the Marquis in the east, who is now stationed in the frontier, has a rebellious nature. He has always looked down upon General Chen, a man of civilian origin, and regarded him as a slave. He often yells at him, and he can't be reused in the frontier. A general, who can't hold real power outside, has been detained in the capital. In this way, General Lin has been stabilized for a long time. Chen's daughter, the third prince's biological mother, Chen Fei, is also breathless by Empress Lin. Now she is under house arrest for Empress Lin's sake. Chen's resentment, which has been stifled for decades, can no longer be controlled, and his heart has been ready to move. In addition, Yan Moli has no sacred heart now. He wants to control most of the forbidden army in the imperial city by himself. He sits down to rebel, and pushes the third prince to the top. Originally, Hua Qianlu came to inquire because of the high price paid by General Chen's opponent. He was afraid to hear that he was plotting this matter. However, now that General Chen sees that the matter has come to light, I'm afraid he will not deal with it so simply. Wait, General Chen has most of the forbidden army in the city? Emo Shanghua's face suddenly changed, suddenly stood up and walked out of the door. Qinya has been guarding the door, at this time to see the flowers come out, quickly asked. The princess is something to explain? The flower on the street just stopped, turned his eyes and stared at Qinya for a while, then shook his head and said, There must be a big movement tonight. I'm afraid it's not safe over there. I'll go and tell you in person. With that he would go forward. Qinya lung, and then reaction, a busy grasp of the arm of Emo Shanghua, urgent way. Princess and so on, you and so on. The flower steps on the street pause, looking at Qinya's eyes with the color of inquiry. Qinya grasped the flower tightly inside. Princess, the flower child is not stupid. He must have expected that. Besides, there is the whole Qinghuan pavilion behind the young master Hua. How can he be found so easily? Emo Shanghua smells speech, a little annoyed patted his forehead. I really confused. Qinya couldn't help but smile. Princess, it's hard for you to be so confused. Mo Shanghua stares at Qinya, looks away as if nothing had happened, and changes the topic. It's so late. Yan Beiqing doesn't come back. You go to the main gate with me. You always have nothing to do. Qinya nodded, turned and took a lantern. When they arrived outside the mansion, they did not see the shadow of Yanbei City. Instead, they ran into the night patrol of the Forbidden Army in the city. On weekdays, the Imperial City has a night patrol by the Imperial Army, but it's often after the time of the first 5 o'clock. Now it's an hour ahead of time. I think that General Chen can't sit still. What's going on? Qinya's mind is smart. She immediately goes forward and asks the guard at the door. Miss Hui, it's said that the city is not peaceful recently, and the burglars are frequent. That's the reason why the police are strengthened. It's said that the night ban will be advanced these days. The guard said respectfully. The expected answer, Mo Shanghua was not surprised. She went forward and said, "Is there someone to take a message back, Lord?" The guard shook his head very much. Mo Shanghua eyebrows light you. Turn round to return to the mansion again, low voice way. Qinya, you say can be a dynasty hall up what big event? Qinya sighed and said, Princess, how can the maidservant get in the court? Naturally, I don't know what happened. The frown on the street is tighter, and there is an uneasiness in my heart. Why is the princess still here so late? Just thinking about it, I heard a man's voice behind me. Mo Shanghua's step stopped immediately. He turned to see that Yan Beiqing had stopped behind her. Half of the terrible, half of the handsome, peerless cheek in the light of the faint lights, showing a bit of fatigue. Mo Shanghua unconsciously quickened her pace and stepped forward, with some worry in her eyes. I came back earlier 2 days ago. Why is it like this today? Is it a matter of going to court? Yan Beiqing lips squeeze out a smile, conveniently pull the hand of Mo Shanghua. Lift stepped to walk inside the pavilion in front. Seeing this, Qinya took off the lampshade outside the lantern, took out the candles, lit all the corner lights in the pavilion, and stood far away from the pavilion with the lantern. Mo Shanghua and Yan Beiqing sit down together. As usual, no matter how late he came back, Yan Beiqing always had a lot to say when he met Mo Shanghua. Most of them were teasing, but today he was obviously not in such a mood. Mo Shanghua held Yan Beiqing's hand tightly for a few minutes, and he was more impatient in his heart. You should speak quickly. Don't worry. It's not a big deal. Yan Beiqing gently held her hand, passed the temperature of his palm to her cool hand and said, Today, just on the court hall, several ministers wrote memorials to the emperor, asking me to return to Yuzhou. Seriously? Mo Shangflower Mao inside penetrate a little doubt. Feel this matter is not simple from the exhaustion of Yan North City. I can't hide it from you. Yan Beiqing could not hide it. He sighed a little and said, Yan Moli has been planning for a long time. In addition to these, he also listed that I have been garrisoning troops outside the imperial city and plotting against others. Now several ministers have asked the emperor to punish me severely. The flower's face sank a little in a moment. She took out her hands and got up to pace slowly. Her eyes crossed a little thoughtfully. When Yan Beiqing saw this, he was also afraid that she would worry too much. He pulled out a smile and said, But you don't have to worry. Things have not been so bad. Recently, I gathered several ministers in the court. They interceded for me, and the emperor just kept the memorial in the middle. After a pause, his eyes flashed a touch of dark, like a sharp arrow suddenly out of the body. Yan Moli is imperative this time. I think it will continue to play tomorrow, but I am not such a useless person. I will not be at his disposal. In terms of etiquette and law, Yan Beiqing, as a vassal, came to the imperial city to admonish the emperor and escorted him with some of his own soldiers. Before that, there was no precedent to be found. The most embarrassing thing was that Yan Beiqing did not leave after living for a month or two, and these soldiers had to have a place to be resettled for tough problems. The flowers on the street drooped their eyes and pondered quietly. Their thoughts changed a lot. Suddenly they asked softly, Can Yan Xinchuan help? What does Yan Moli look like? On the face of Yan Beicheng, he was calm without any panic. He wanted to do something. I was afraid to scare the snake, so I planned to solve it by myself. As for Yan Moli, he is calm and still pleads for me in front of the emperor. At the end of the day, his eyes were cold. The flowers on the street nodded slightly, then paced and thought carefully. Yan Beicheng didn't want to see her so hard and vexed. He went forward and put her in his arms. He said in a low voice, I already have a way to deal with it. You don't have to worry. Mo Shanghua turns around, and the distance between them is just a short distance. Yan Beicheng can clearly see the worries in her eyes. Yan Beicheng felt more and more distressed, and pressed the whole person of Mo Shanghua into his arms. I've ordered people to temporarily place those soldiers in the barracks outside the city. There are my people in Beijing. As for those compromises that let me go back, I have my own way to deal with them. You just need to stay in the palace every day to enjoy your leisure. In front of the chest strong and powerful, heart sound is particularly steady, also let Mo Shanghua restless heart calm down. However, she is not just a little girl hiding behind her husband. Thinking of this, she raised her head and looked at Yan Beicheng. Her eyes were full of obstinacy. I have to face it with you. Seeing her appearance, Yan Beicheng couldn't help raising his hand and stroking her forehead. He sighed. I just love you for working hard for me. I don't despise you. Don't think much about it. I know your mind. As a matter of fact, Mo Shanghua didn't want to be so affectionate. He pushed Yan Beicheng away and said, I went to Lai Hua Qianlu today. He told me a secret. Maybe I can make good use of it. If you control it properly, it will not only help you out, but also greatly improve your current situation. See his complexion so earnest. Yan North City also accepted daughter's sentiment long. Say a little more clearly. Mo Flower Mao Guang swept one eye and all around. Yanbei City immediately understood, slightly raised his voice, Moling. Mo Ling didn't show up, but the flower on the street clearly felt that there were several more breath around, which should be someone's guard in the dark. Qinya turns around and takes a look at the couple in the pavilion. She is standing far away with a lantern. For clean-up, on the street flower heart slightly brewed some time. Voice deep mouth. General Chen has anti-heart. Yan North City sword eyebrow immediately tightly CU rises. In the eye peep out a few minutes dignified. Really? Mo Shanghua gently nodded, sorted out what he heard today and his thoughts, and said, Hua Qianlu and Nanhe were discovered by General Chen because they had heard about it. Nanhe was seriously injured, but fortunately they didn't reveal their identities. If you just look at the movements of the Imperial Guards in the city today, you can guess one or two. General Chen now wants to help the third prince to the top. Yan Beicheng's phoenix eyes changed quickly. In a short time, dozens of thoughts had already passed in his heart, and he couldn't help saying, General Chen, have you been dazzled? The third prince's talent is ordinary. Today's emperor is still healthy, and Yan Moli in the court is also covetous. How dare he do such things? The great crime of treason should be punished. Not to mention the strength of General Chen. It is with him and Yan Moli, the success rate of this matter will be more and more reduced. Mo Shanghua's face is the same as Yan Beicheng's, but at the same time, it's a bit bright. I've checked, he's just out of breath by Yan Mo's Limu family, so I want to take advantage of this opportunity. After a pause, she thought deeply at the bottom of her eyes. However, as you said, I think there may be more strange things in this matter. If not, there must be something behind it. That's why General Chen, who has always been the mean, suddenly got this idea. I think it's time to pay more attention to it. Yan Emoli did not answer. A pair of phoenix eyes flashed deep meditation. This matter is too sudden not to say. It is full of doubts. I am afraid there is a bigger conspiracy behind it. Do you know when General Chen is going to do it? Yan Beicheng suddenly turned his head and opened his mouth with a dignified face. The flower on the street nodded slightly. If the willow is not found, it will be less in March and more in a year. Yan Beicheng turned his head again and stood with a negative hand. He did not know what he was thinking. Mo Shanghua sits on the stone chair in the hall, also drooping his eyes and meditating. A thought suddenly passes in his heart, and Emo Shanghua suddenly rises up. Is it Baorong Emperor who is not fit now? His successor has already been determined in secret? Yan Beiqing's idea that he had been floating in his heart was lit up in an instant. He turned around, and his eyes were heavy. It's very possible. However, he has not summoned me for some time. That's because he temporarily placed his hope on Ning Tongji. I believe that before long, he will surely summon the national teacher. If so, it will be true. Emo Shanghua's mind gradually unfolds, and the analysis of the whole thing is clear and clear. After a pause, she continued. If it's really so, I'm afraid that the real one Baorong Emperor wants is Yan Xinchuan. The recent changes to the queen are not only for superficial reasons, but also for clearing the way for Yan Xinchuan. Speaking of this, the flower on the street side. Unexpectedly, the person who didn't want to sit in this position is the one Baorong Emperor is looking forward to most. Yan Beiqing didn't open his mouth. His whole cheek was tight, and his whole body was as cold as entering a very cold place. Emo Shanghua Mei Xian jumped hard, took the initiative to hold his hand, and said in a soft voice, "This matter has not been decided yet. Don't be too impatient. Besides, Yan Xinchuan doesn't want to sit in this position. I'll help you with all my strength." Yan Beiqing didn't speak. The tight corners of his lips softened a little, and held her hand tightly. Cold seems to pass through the palm of the hand to the hands of flowers. Emo Shanghua let Yan Beiqing hold his hand tightly and said, "You don't have to be eager. There is a long way to go. What belongs to you will never be taken away. The most important thing now is to deal with Yan Emo first." She seemed to have an idea in her heart, and her voice became more and more calm. "You are ordering your people in the court to help you delay for a few days, and I will try to make you stay in the palace honestly." But Yan Beiqing shook his head and finally said, "I don't want to let you risk. You can rest assured that I have a way to deal with it. You just need to stay in the palace peacefully. If all your conjectures are justified, I will try to send you back to Yuzhou first." Yuzhou is the safest place at present. Before she had finished her sentence, Yan Beiqing interrupted her directly and could not refuse. Emo Shanghua's beautiful face was filled with anger, and even his voice was frozen. "Yan Beiqing, I have told you many times that I am not the one who is greedy for life and afraid of death. Now that you are in danger, you want to send me back to Yuzhou. What's the truth?" Yan Beiqing looked at her helplessly, raised his hand to caress her cheek, "Emoer." But Yan Beiqing directly tilted his head to avoid, and said in a cold voice, "I am a husband and wife with you. If anything happens, no one can escape. No matter what happens, I have to face with you. Don't try to push me away. I won't leave easily." All the insistence of Yan Beiqing suddenly disintegrated, and his whole heart softened. I know, Emoer. I underestimated you. I was wrong. From now on, you and I will be husband and wife, and we will never leave until we die." The last sentence, he said very seriously. In the past, deep cannot see the look of the eyes, but now will be full of eyes of the deep and serious, all revealed in front of the flowers. The anger in Emo Shanghua's heart disappeared, and her voice softened. "I only want to live and die with you." Yan Beiqing quietly embraces the flowers in his arms. His heart has been filled with a kind of extremely warm and happy emotion. He can no longer hold any emotion beside him. On the next day in the court hall, yesterday, he wrote a memorial to the 2 imperial censors of Yanbei City, which is a good example of perseverance. Today, another person wrote a memorial to continue to serve Yanbei, and he continued to garrison troops and plot against the rule. Yan Beiqing was not afraid. He spoke in his heart and went forward directly. He said with reasonable reasons, "Tell my father my son is a vassal and he has thousands of bodyguards under him. I really don't understand why they can't get by with my son. Yesterday my father has stayed in China, but today he is so persistent and continues to play. You are sophistry, you are mischievous." One of them became angry when he was angry. Yan North City is not in a hurry, meaning to point to a way. If so, the second emperor elder brother is also a vassal now. Why don't you see the second emperor elder brother? Drive the second emperor brother to the vassal. As we all know, Yen Moli, the vassal, had no name but a fiefdom. Isn't it embarrassing for Yen Beiqing to say that in public? Sure enough, Yen Moli's face was a bit gloomy with the speed visible to the naked eye. However, in the presence of Emperor Baorong and his ministers, he could not turn his face over. Thinking of this, Yen Moli forced himself to soften his face and said, I'm afraid I don't know that the fifth emperor's younger brother is often in Yuzhou. I don't know that the king has no fiefdom now, so I don't have to worry about it. Oh dash, Yen Beiqing suddenly realized. The censor quietly glanced at Yen Mo's gloomy face. His forehead was cold and sweaty, and he did not dare to say a word. Another censor was more courageous and wise. He went forward and said, In any case, it's an indisputable fact that His Highness King Yu has been stationing troops. At present, the whole world is peaceful and the imperial city is stable, but His Highness King Yu has made such a move. His heart is clear. Please punish him severely. As soon as the words fell, the minister of the Ministry of War came out and said, I inform your majesty that I ordered people to go to check yesterday. There is no garrison outside the city. Baorong Emperor's eyes suddenly flashed an amazing color of suspicion. The censor immediately knelt down in fear. I don't dare to make a false statement. Please tell me. When Yen Beiqing saw this, he took no time to explain. I told my father that although my son-in-law had no disobedience for fear of suspicion, he had to exile my son-in-law's bodyguards a little further away, and they were stationed next to General Chen's forbidden camp. Now it should have arrived. General Chen, standing at the end of the courtiers, suddenly shook his hand and his eyes sank. Baorong Emperor heard the speech, and then he said, In this case, this matter need not be discussed. With Baorong Emperor's words, people naturally did not dare to say anything more. They all stopped. Yen Moli then stood on the side of Yen Beiqing. After hearing the words of Emperor Baorong, his hand immediately clenched, and his eyes were full of gloom. From the beginning to the end, Yen Xinchuan was still standing at the end of several people, hanging his eyes and saying nothing. What's difficult is that in the past, he would cough twice every now and then when he went to court, but now this kind of situation is even less and less. His face was getting better day by day. With the sharp voice of the eunuch, Emperor Baorong got up and left, and all the ministers had to kneel down to see him off. When all the courtiers dispersed, Lu Weng went forward and said with a smile to Yen Xinchuan, Your Majesty, please leave the 13 princes and go to the imperial study for a talk. Yen Xinchuan was still smiling and nodded gently. Thank you, Mr. Lu. Lu Weng Chao Yen Xinchuan smile very respectful, smiled to get out of the way. Your Highness, please. Seeing such a situation, Yen Mo Li's hard eyes seemed to drip water. Yen North City sees this, but is a face indifferent of gather together to come over, 2 Huang elder brothers. Yen Mo Li slightly asteringed his eyes and pressed down the gloom at the bottom of his eyes. What's the matter with the 5th emperor's younger brother? Facing Yen Mo Li, Yen Beiqing smiles politely and perfunctorily, and says, Brother Huang, when I first came to Chaozhong, I didn't expect to do that. I'm really scared. Brother Huang has been immersed in Chaozhong for many years, and we are brothers again. Can you ask Brother Huang to help me? Then, without waiting for Yen Mo Li's consent, he bowed deeply, and the whole person was bent to 90 degrees. Yen Mo Li's face was green and white. He resisted the impulse of kicking Yen Beiqing away, and raised him up in surprise. It's only 2 years since I joined the court. I'm very familiar with many things. How can I guide you? The 5th emperor's younger brother is still quick to get up. If my father sees it, he will blame me. Yen Beiqing's sword eyebrows were tightly twisted into a ball, and his face was full of distress. The 2nd emperor's elder brother has been in the court for 2 years. What about the 3rd emperor's elder brother? So far, I dare not say a few words about that rubbish. Yen Mo Li sneered in his heart and sighed on his face. Brother Wu Huang, you'd better ask for your own happiness. With that, he patted Yen Beiqing on the shoulder symbolically and walked out. Yen Beiqing turns around and looks at Yen Mo's stride, and his lips start slowly. What Mo Shanghua expected was good. Not long after Emperor Baorong summoned Yan Xinchuan, he summoned the national teacher again. When the national master entered the palace, he happened to meet Yan Xinchuan head-on. Before going, Yan Xinchuan's face was as usual, but now he is a little strange, which makes people feel strange. The national teacher soon understood the reason. Baorong Emperor, who had just been in the court hall, was still in high spirits and planning strategies, but now he was sitting on the dragon chair with a gloomy face. The national master quickly raised his eyes and glanced at Emperor Baorong. He lowered his head again. "See you, Your Majesty." A national teacher should not be polite. Baorong Emperor did not despise the treatment of national teachers because of the existence of Ningxi. Lu Weng followed Baorong Emperor for most of his life. He had known Baorong Emperor's nature for a long time. At this moment he came forward with a seat. Looking at Emperor Baorong's gentle face, the national master said thanks and sat down with a sneer in his heart. "I don't know how many times better my own son is than his outsider." Just thinking about it, Emperor Baorong's voice came in slowly from before the case. "Master, do you remember what I told you before?" His voice was much slower than that above the court hall, and he was a little old. If you think about it carefully, Baorong Emperor's age is not small. Now he is 49 years old, and over the age of Zhuang. The national master glanced at Baorong Emperor's white hair and said, "I remember that I have lived up to Your Majesty's trust." As he spoke, a boy came forward and presented a box about the size of a palm. Lu Weng took it and presented it to Emperor Baorong. I saw a white pill lying quietly in the small brocade box. Baorong Emperor's eyes suddenly brightened, and his whole body seemed to have energy. He held the brocade box tightly in his hand, and his voice was excited. "Can this thing really live forever?" The national teacher heard the speech, slightly drooped his eyes. "This pill can only prolong life, but it can't satisfy the function of immortality for the time being." The excitement in Baorong Emperor's eyes was suddenly poured down by a bucket of water, and it was completely extinguished. After a while, the light in his eyes changed for a long time. Suddenly he sat up straight and said, "I'm coming to Xianing, Immortal Master." The national teacher's face changed slightly. He went to dissuade the unborn, and just sat and waited. Ning knew that he came here soon after receiving the imperial edict, and went forward to salute slowly, but Emperor Baorong did not give him a seat as usual. "Immortal Master, now the national master has been able to develop pills to prolong life. I know you are in a dilemma. In this way, you can study them together with the national master, only give advice from the side, and don't use them for other purposes. It must not be against the will of your Wuxian clan." Baorong Emperor made no secret of his purpose, and said it in a tone that could not be resisted. Rather familiar with the words, but half hesitated, only said, "Your Majesty, please forgive my incompetence. Can't do my best for Your Majesty." Baorong Emperor's face darkened with the speed visible to the naked eye. In his voice, he said politely, "Are you determined not to help me? Master Ningxian, I have given you many opportunities. Do you have to be so stubborn?" Ning knew that he had no fear on his face, and he was calm and fearless. "I'm not stubborn, but it's too bad for me to deal with. All things in the world have rules and regulations. If they are forced to change them, they will be punished by heaven." Up to now, Yan Beiqing's heart just appreciates the inner voice of Ning Zhizhi. Emperor Baorong has been away for many years, and he has already developed the disposition of saying one thing but two things. Anyone who disobeys him will never come to a good end. He would rather know than be afraid. And it doesn't seem to be the first time. It seems that he is also a brave man. However, what is his intention? The doubt in Yan Beiqing's heart had just whirled by, and the Emperor Baorong suddenly smashed down a paper town. Seeing that the paper town was about to fall on Ning Tongji's shoulder, he dodged, and his face was still modest. Baorong Emperor's face looks as black as the bottom of a pot. Even when Yan Beiqing saw it, he could not help admiring it in his heart. This rather knows what is mad. Dare to let Baorong Emperor lose face in front of others. How can Emperor Baorong endure such humiliation as a king? Good. Emperor Baorong was so angry that he laughed back. The flame in his eyes almost swallowed Ning Tongji alive. However, he seemed to have some scruples in his heart. He sneered for a long time and said, Master Ning Xian disobeyed me. I will drive him out of the palace from now on. I will never enter the palace for eternity. If you were someone else, you would have been pulled out and chopped. This kind of punishment is indeed a light punishment for Ning Tongji. There is no accident in Yanbei City. It must be that Emperor Baorong had scruples about the mysterious family of Wuxian. Otherwise, he would not be soft-hearted. In looking at Ning, he didn't even raise his eyebrows and eyes, and the radiance of his lips was as old as before. Thank you, Your Majesty. Then, without waiting for Baorong Emperor to order people to come, he turned and left by himself. Yan Beiqing looked at Ning Tongji's free and easy figure, but there was no joy in his heart. At the moment he realized that the scene was that Ning Tongji deliberately angered Baorong Emperor. Why did he leave so suddenly? What is his purpose in doing this? National teacher. After a period of anger, Baorong Emperor's whole cheek was burned. His face was red, and he was a little tired between his eyebrows and eyes. You step down first, I will continue to call you tomorrow. I will leave. Yan Beiqing stood up and bowed his head slightly. As usual, after leaving the imperial palace, he came from the secret road of the imperial palace. In exchange for the identity of Yan Beiqing, he went back to the palace of King Yu. Mo Shanghua got up quite early today, and had been waiting for Yan Beiqing to go to court. As soon as he came back, he held back everyone and sat opposite each other. Yan Beiqing was half handsome and half evil, and his face was as good as blood. It's no different for the emperor to be on the court. After going down to the court, he first summoned Yan Xinxuan, and then summoned the national teacher and Nanaing Jiji. He told what happened today in detail with Mo Shanghua. Mo Shanghua's face was dignified. She asked in a low voice, Has Emperor Baorong called the imperial doctor to give advice recently? Yan Beiqing nodded slightly and said, I went to the imperial palace today to see if someone had gone to the imperial hospital to inquire. He called the imperial doctor only 3 days ago. In the past 200 years, even the imperial doctor who asked for a safe pulse could not get close to him. He just said that he was busy and had no time. Mo Shanghua's conjecture seemed to have been carried out, and her tone was especially positive. Baorong Emperor's body must have gone wrong, but... Her tone turned slightly, and her eyes were a little confused. General Chen can't be reused, and even the chance to see His Majesty is very little. How did he know about it? Yan Beiqing is also confused, but one thing is very sure. This matter is certainly not as simple as you and I imagine. It's only because someone is behind the scenes that it will be so. Is it Yan Moli? Mo Shanghua has 100 thoughts in her heart. A guess surges into her heart, and is soon snuffed out by herself. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.